still facing them today. But at the same time, we've made tremendous progress. Next up, we've got Dr. Stigmata Tenga from the Africa Philanthropy Network. She is the Executive Director. She here? Anybody representing APN?
I'm here. Hi, everyone.
My apologies.
Can you colleagues hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Oh, great. I'm greeting you from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And already looking at the room, I felt so ashamed not being there, because I've already started to miss the hugs, the celebrations, the noises, the dancing, the celebration, the way Africans celebrate their own. And here we are celebrating our own, the day that is identified to becoming an Africa Day. It's sad that I'm not there, but I'm ready to participate online and my colleagues are there. I think the two colleagues who have spoken before me have, spoken it all. And just for everyone, wanted to let you know that at the Africa Philanthropy Network, which is a community of individuals and organizations who are really Africans, formed by African, led by African, promoting the culture of philanthropy, ensuring that we are influencing for the recognition of African ways of bringing about development are recognized, because we believe that is the way we can bring about long-term and lasting change in the continent. And also at APN, for us, when we say African philanthropy, we really mean the voice, the action, and resources. And today here, we are celebrating the voices of our young people. And we really are looking forward to ensuring that going forward, the pact, like the Free Trade Area Pact, listening to and including the voices of young Africans into ensuring that we are together working to bring about development. And we know that within the space where we are anticipating many changes and transformations. And we really have to look for ways of adjusting, but adjusting it using our own homegrown solutions. And as a response to that, at APN, we believe in deepening the involvement of young people. And we are centering young people and their work, all young people, girls, boys, those seen and unseen, those heard and unheard, into the framework of the analysis of Africa philanthropy, but also within the work that we are doing. And to me, as we celebrate the Africa Day today, as we have decided to look into this free trade pact and how does it work for people, I'm looking at the changes which are already taking place in the continent and appreciating and I would like us to celebrate already the work that is being done by young people in ensuring that they are responding to their own happiness, but also bringing about development in their communities. And we see some of the studies that are coming up recently telling us that communities which are more resilient today are those communities that have higher level of the participation of young people into their work. So they call from Africa Philanthropy Network and its members is that as we celebrate the Africa Day today, we should really work together, work into collaboration in ensuring that young people are not left behind in all aspects of building the Africa we want. Is the AfTA, which we have chosen, the Africa Free Trade Agreement or Africa Free Trade Area, is one of the flagship of the African Union Agenda for 2023. So we should not really leave young people behind. We should work together to amplify the voice, to amplify the action of what they're doing and reshape the narrative that exists among around what is the capability of young people in the continent. I don't want to take a lot of our time because I want also to sit back and listen and learn more about what is it that we are celebrating and learn more about the pact. But for me, I would like to wish us all very fruitful discussions as we advance after, but also as we build towards a movement of the Africa we want. I'm so proud to say that this event is one of such powerful events in influencing our own destiny and building the Africa we want with dignity. Sending much love from where I sit, but also sitting here in solidarity with all of us. Let's sing, let's celebrate the Africa Day together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tenga, for those wonderful remarks. Indeed, we can only go so far where we want to get continent. Let's not forget, especially youth, who are the future of our continent. That being said, for those of us who are online, the hashtags we're using are green. I'm already on Africa Day 2023. Let's also add our Africa, our future, and not forgetting the Africa we want. Next up, we've got Professor Neil Soko, Business School. Professor Soko.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jambo, Duguela, Beda, all those African greetings, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much. I'm here to represent Best Business Group, one of the partners in this momentous event. I'm very pleased to be able to welcome you all on behalf of Best Business Group to today's Africa Day event. This year's Africa Day, which of course of the formation of the African Union, or the predecessor, what was the Organization of African Unity. So it is a very important milestone in our continent's history. But we are not here to look back, we're here to look forward. And indeed, the slogan for these years, Africa Day, is Our Africa, Our Future. At Best Business School, our mission is to develop the next generation of leaders. The future is in the hands of our youth. And as an academic institution, it is our responsibility to ensure that our future leaders have the knowledge of our society, many of which are unpredictable. We need leaders who anticipate and embrace change. We need leaders who think beyond the narrow confines of profits or self-interest. That is why Best Business School's mission is to develop a pipeline of able, agile, and ethical leaders in Africa and for Africa. This commemorative event is extremely important because it speaks to the youth, it speaks to the needs of small business and social enterprises, and it speaks to the economic growth of our continent. Are we on the right track? Are we setting ourselves up for a successful future? These are the questions we're trying to grapple with. But also, today is important because it gives us an opportunity to come together to celebrate our unity as Africans, to engage on issues that affect all of us, to find common ground, but also to respect and divergence in views. Best Business School's vision is to be a leading African business school, not a leading business school in Africa. There is a crucial difference. We are passionate about this continent and proud to be playing a role in developing its future leaders. Thank you for inviting me to join you today. It is exciting to share in this event. Thank you to my colleagues at KEPSI, especially Dr. Kiratile Mohoti. Where is she? Dr. Kiratile Mohoti has been the driving force behind this event. Give a clap of hands. Thank you to our partners, Minds, SIOP, and the African Philanthropy Network. It is only partnerships and collaboration that we can truly have an impact and to create a future that we all want. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Kwakpo. Well said. The key takeaway for me there is that what's resonating with what Kamala said is that of knowledge. Let's not educate young people today to only resolve the problems of today, but let's also look at resolving problems and challenges of the future. And let's be innovative as we tackle that. Next up, we've got Jacob Matty. He's the Deputy Director of the Center on African Philanthropy and Social Investment.
Thank you. Mine is very little. Thank you to thank our partners and probably try to not to burst the bubbles, but probably provoke you into a particular form of thinking. And I'll tell you why. But before I do that, let me first of all thank our partners, Sumata from APN and your colleagues here, Minds, SIOP, and I know for many of you, this is not the first time I do this together. I know last year we had something similar, and thank you for staying with us. WBS Deputy, are you mothers or are you fathers? We have contested fraternities that probably your mothers, that would be easier to your mother, it would be easier to say that at CAPSI. And some are parliamentarians in the room from Tanzania, Namibia, South Africa. Thank you very much for gracing the occasion. We feel honored that we're here. Our young men and women from the BITS SRC leadership, thank you very much for gracing the occasion. And I'm sure that the debates that you guys are leading or participating in are likely to help us make sense of this dream, but also a dream over 60 years, which has become a reality not too long ago. And of course, Kira, thank you for running this once again, for all the passion that you brought into it and bringing partners together and everything else. It seems like dreams take a very, 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 very long time to materialize. Or I don't know whether they're dreams or visualizations or they're in traditions where I come from, where we can see us. People can see the future, the rumors of the world. You may say they were dreaming, they had a vision, or they probably were serious. And those of us, and my parents are in the generation that experienced part of colonialism and then new independent Africa with a lot of promise. Then I never got that particular chance. But I had the chance of being born during when majority of the founding fathers are still alive. But some of them have been dethroned, and Nkrumah didn't that much. Probably was too good for his own good. But when I went to the young man talked about school, let me talk about school because that is what we do here. In my undergrad, I spent torturous amount of hours trying to make sense of this African unity. At the time, the Continental Body was the Organization of African Unity. You go into deep debates, theoretical, philosophical, etc., about a united Africa. But at the same time as we were doing this thing, Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda just killed the East African community. And we're talking about a united Africa. So why am I bringing this up? Not to bust the bubble, but to say that we may keep on putting in so many ink on paper, signing agreements, but unless it's being mean tangible things or lead to tangible effects on people. She has told us that the estimated number, right away, like the free area is likely to immediately take over 30 million people out of poverty. That's a great idea. Unless we make it happen, it's going to be another maybe it's quite different. Some about I decided to make a mad experiment right from Johannesburg to Nairobi. I wanted to experience a lot about that. But every single border point I got to, I spent no less than probably 6 hours or so. Few hours earlier, and had the fortune again of going around Europe, and this wasn't the case. They kept on asking, why is it that we have created so many barriers for ourselves that we're inheriting and making our lives so difficult for each and everyone, so to speak. So I'm happy that the Nkrumah's vision and his colleagues has come to fruition. I hope that in a few years' time, when Professor Bill give me some sabbatical, I want to get that particular trip again and want to see how long will it take me from these particular borders again. I don't know whether I'll still have the energy, but I would want to try and see exactly that can happen. What I'm saying is, we're living in exciting times. These particular dreams are slowly being realized. Around 2007-8, the big debate around Africa, it was immediately after the provision of the transition to the African Union, was the African Renaissance, which Professor Becky, Basanjo, and a few others. And I think us proceed in that particular exam. Thank you once again and welcome.
Thank you very much, Professor Boko. Although you told me not to call you professor, that protocol is such that we respect our elders. I hope you won't chastise me for that. For calling you professor. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard we still have challenges on our continent. We should not be fangirls. Yes, indeed, even as we celebrate, let's not impose barriers on ourselves unnecessarily. And this week I read on the ABN platform in Kiswahili, nguvu ni kusaidiana. Kamala, are you with me? What does that mean? Strength is in helping one another. let's not be stringent with our borders. How are we going to help the youth? How are we going to help one another, to trade with one another freely, moving people, moving services, digitally? Please, let's do away with these barriers. And next time we come to an event such as this one, let's also celebrate our milestones. My experience in driving across borders, I think it takes us about I don't know when it is that you took your drive to Nairobi. It was a long time ago. I think my recent experience is about maybe 2.5 hours now. So it's been repeated for 6 hours to maybe 2.5 hours or even less across some other borders. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for us to unpack the African Continental Free Trade Area. What does that mean for our businesses? And this year we're saying we want to accelerate the African Continental Free Trade Area. What does that mean? We now have panelists with us. We will be joined by Mr. Silver Ojako, he's the Chief of Staff at the AFCFTA Secretariat. And then we've got also Memory Dube, she's Regional Integration and Trade Specialist from the African Development Bank. They are joining us online. I don't know if Ify is online. Is she online now?
No.
All right, Ify hasn't been able to join us from UNDP, but we've got Dr. Nkosana Moyo, Mines founder and CEO in the room. Mr. Ojako, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, moderator. First of all, I would like to extend appreciation to you and all the colleagues at the University of the Witwatersrand for organizing this event and inviting the Secretariat to be part of the celebration marking 60 years of the founding of the Organization of African Unity, the precursor to the African Union. Having said that, I think I will go straight to the matters that you have raised, unpacking the AFCFTA and what does it mean, and what is the progress that we are making towards creating the single market for Africa. As you rightly pointed out at the start of this conversation, on the 25th of May, 1963, when you read the speech of the former president of Ghana, the late Kwame Nkrumah, you actually read the AFCFTA and what it means for Africa. And I think in that meeting and in that speech, they were talking about political integration, but with the political integration, without the economic integration, then the other aspect would be more or less meaningless unless we united economically. And so the AFCFTA has come through a long process from 1963 onward to the Lagos Plan of Action, and later on, of course, actualizing the Abuja Treaty that narrowed down the areas and refocused in terms of how we will develop the continent economically. So then in 2010, here in Accra, the heads of state made a declaration on boosting intra-Africa trade. And 2 years later, they now made a declaration that in order to boost intra-Africa trade, we needed to put in place an instrument that would enable us to move and achieve that goal. And they directed that the Continental Free Trade Area be developed with an indicative date of 2017. We missed the deadline by 1 year and finally managed to conclude the negotiations leading to the signature of the agreement in March 2018 in Kigali. So now that the agreement was signed, so what does it mean in real terms for the continent. The objective, as you all know, is to create a single market for trade in goods and services, a single market for investment, a single market for intellectual property protection, a single competition regime throughout the continent, and largely single frameworks, legal and regulatory, in terms of driving trade, driving investment, driving intellectual property, digital trade, and so on and so forth. So this is what the agreement intends to do. When you read through the, I think, Article 3 of the framework agreement, you see the things that the agreement aims to do, including industrialization through the development of regional value chains, food safety and agricultural development, food security and agricultural development, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that you will find in Article 3. Now, with this market, with this agreement, we bring together 1.3 billion people currently, but we are inching close to 1.4 billion. But this population is expected to rise to 2.5 billion by 2050. So that will be slightly more than double what we have at the moment. Our GDP, as it stands today, is 3.4 trillion, but is projected to rise to 7 trillion by 2035. But in order for us to rise to $7 trillion GDP for the continent by 2035, we have to do a lot more. We have to double our efforts. We have to develop this regional value chain that we are talking about. We need to upscale our production, agriculture, fisheries, forestry, mining, but not only upscale our production, but add value to the products that we produce. Because at the moment, as we all know, literally everything that we produce from the ground in terms of minerals is benefiting other regions of the world more than it benefits us. Our agricultural production of some of the major commodities, coffee, cocoa, tea, and so on, benefits other regions of the world more than it benefits us. And so this is why we think that this agreement, once we implement it and successfully do so, it should enable the continent to scale up in terms of value and so on and so forth. So this architecture, the agreement and all the protocol that it has, should trigger for us, and is expected to do so, to increase, first of all, our intra-Africa trade from the current law of, I think by the time the agreement was being negotiated, the figure that we knew then was 14%. Now it's risen to about 17, 18%. We need to drive this towards 25% of intra-Africa trade, 25% of what we trade with the rest of the world. This architecture is to drive investment, FDI, as well as cross-border investment. There are good examples that are happening already within our regional economic communities, within the SADC, within the East African community, within COMESA, within the ECOWAS. With the instruments of the regional economic communities, we witness lots of cross-border investment within the members of the regional economic communities. In the East African community, for example, there is a lot of cross-border investment from Kenya to Tanzania, Kenya to Uganda, Kenya to Rwanda, in various areas, transport, banking services, transport services, health services, and so on and so forth. So there is, including in manufacturing, in cement production, in agro processing, and so on. So there's cross-border investment happening because of the liberalization and the economic integration that is taking place. We expect that to happen as well with the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. We are already witnessing investment from North African states in West Africa. We see already Morocco investing in fertilizer production in Nigeria, and I think also fertilizer production in Ghana. And we expect to use the AfCFTA trading instrument. We also see investment from Egypt in West Africa, in Ghana in particular. We've seen this with the assembly of air conditioning equipment from Egypt to Ghana. The AfCFTA agreement, as it states in Article 3, will lead to the development of the regional value chains as a precursor for us to be able to join the global value chains. And so far, 4 sectors have been identified and studied by the Secretariat, working with partners. And these sectors include agriculture and agro-processing. We are looking at a number of agro-processing and value chains, including cotton, including dairy products, including beef and beef products, poultry and poultry products. Those are some of the areas that we're looking at in terms of value chain for agro-processing. The second sector of the value chains is the pharmaceutical sector. This is critical in the sense that we should be able to address the disease burden that affects our continent. We also, and we witnessed what happened in 2020 when we were hit by a pandemic, and a pandemic that disrupted global supply chains. To a very large extent, we're relying on other regions of the world to meet our health needs, to meet our medicaments, to the tune of $16 billion import of medicaments in 2019. That figure has gone down. I think it is dawning on us that it is important that we take our health into our own hands, that we should be able to manage the disease burden in the continent. So pharmaceutical sector is that area that we are looking at also in terms of the development of the regional value chains. The other sector that we are looking at in terms of the development of the regional value chains is the automobile sector. And there are growth centers that we know babysitting other growth centers, so to speak. For the automobile sector, I think a major growth center is South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, Kenya to an extent. And we've seen that some of the automobile plants in South Africa are slowly moving out and beginning to babysit other plants in other parts of the continent. We see that the VW plant in Ghana is working closely with the plant in South Africa. I think the one in Rwanda as well, the VW plant in Rwanda as well. So we are looking at the automobile sector. And finally, the fourth one is transport and logistics, because of the challenges that we see in the continent in terms of the conveyance of goods from one part of the continent to another. The implementation and the use of the architecture of the AfCFTA should open opportunities for innovation, for employment creation, for the development of new skills, and for harnessing the African resources through value addition in order that we can be able to move up the value chain, increase intra-Africa trade, but also increase the trade between Africa and the rest of the world in a manner that once we are adding value onto our resources, we will now not be trading on the basis of raw material. We'll be trading on the basis of, with the rest of the world, that is, will not be trading on the basis of raw material, but will be trading on the basis of value-added products, thus improving our terms of trade, the value of the product that will be trading with the rest of the world, and as such, we will be able to move up the value chain and improve our trading prospects with the rest of the world. And as I said earlier, the process towards one African market and what is the progress that we have made thus far. I want to say that the framework agreement is there, as you all know, with the protocols on trading goods, protocol on trading services, the protocol on dispute settlement, and the 3 protocols which were adopted by the Assembly 3 months ago, and is the protocol on intellectual property, the protocol on investment, the protocol on competition. Now, 2 other protocols are at the negotiating table at the moment, and this is the protocol on women and youth in trade, and then the protocol on digital trade. So those 2 protocols are expected to be concluded by the end of next month, because the heads of state wanted to have a look at them at the media coordination meeting in July. So we expect those 2 protocols to be concluded. Now, where are we in terms of the progress in implementation of the protocols that were concluded under phase 1? Because this progress.
Excuse me, sir, we're reminded that we need to wind up within this 1 minute, if possible.
Thank you very much. Then I will beg to stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Apple. It's really heartening to listen and hear of the progress that's already being made in implementing this agreement for us to trade freely as a continent. Already, I'm heartened by the stats that he's given us, that since the signing of this agreement, we moved from intra-African trade that was at 14% to about 17 to 18%. So it's heartening to hear the progress that we're making in integrating as a continent through trade. Next up, we've got Memory today. Memory, are you ready? Memory as a regional integration trade specialist. May you please speak to the theme for the event this afternoon. Over to you, Memory.
Thank you, moderator. Firstly, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the organizers for inviting the African Development Bank to participate in this important conversation as we mark Africa Day, and greetings to my fellow panelists as well as the webinar participants. So since the webinar is focused on the youth, I think we really must talk about the African demographic dividend and the challenge of massive unemployment and underemployment that we face on the continent. So just to throw some stats at you, on average each year, we only have 3 million formal jobs for about 12 million young people entering the job market. Half of the 2 billion working age population by 2063 is expected to be young people. So the current trend is really not sustainable. However, because of that, we're seeing more and more youth turning to entrepreneurship, and that brings us to the opportunities that the AFCFTA presents. So these opportunities are unprecedented, and at the bank, we see the AFCFTA really as an opportunity to accelerate entrepreneurship and employment creation on the continent. The youth are already at the helm of the 4th Industrial Revolution. I mean, look at the advancements that have been made in fintech, the strides that we're making with e-commerce. There are apps everywhere for almost everything, and this is almost all driven by the youth. So if the youth have been able to achieve this much, this far, imagine how far they can go when the AFCFTA is in full implementation with all the attendant benefits and opportunities. Most importantly, I think the bigger question is, how do we transform this demographic dividend from a challenge to an opportunity? So now, coming from a development finance institution, I thought to focus my intervention really on the practical interventions that the bank is making in relation to the youth. And these interventions, I must say, are also designed with the objective of empowering the youth to take advantage of the opportunities presented by the AFCFTA. And some of them, if not most, really are also in response to our Jobs in Africa, Jobs for Youth in Africa strategy. And you'll find that these interventions actually cut across the three main interventions that are faced by the youth, so finance, capacity, and the business environment. Talking about youth employment, the bank has, between 2016 and 2022, and through our development interventions in our regional member states, which are the African countries, created about 14.6 million jobs. 4.23 million of which were direct jobs and 10.4 million were indirect jobs. So the bank has really been intentional about high employment impact operations and special initiatives in job-rich, women and youth-friendly sectors such as agriculture, digital, and the creative sectors, which is where most of the youth entrepreneurs are situated. And working with the International Labour Organization, we're developing what we call the Jobs and Skills Marker System, which we're going to embed into our systems and processes as the bank to maximize the employment outcomes of the bank's investment operations. And this is really about moving away also from a project approach to creating employment and opportunities for the youth, but to make it more systemic and to institutionalize job or employment creation in all of our interventions across the continent. We've also developed what we call the Skills for Employability and Productivity Action Plan, the SEPA Action Plan, which will accelerate bank investments, particularly in STEM and TVET, reducing skills gaps and mismatches and making young people more employable and productive. So to implement this action plan, and in partnership with the African Union and African governments, the bank is developing the African Education, Science, Technology and Innovation Fund, which will start with an investment of $120 million and will grow to $380 million in 10 years. So we also have what we call the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Lab, ELAB, established to support youth employment and entrepreneurship in Africa by strengthening the capacity, operational reach, and sustainability of enterprise support organizations. So the ELAB supports incubators, accelerators, financial intermediaries, including fund managers operating at all stages of the startup investment cycle, and other intermediaries supporting entrepreneurship. The lab has to date nurtured over 50 partners that provide support to entrepreneurs in Africa and has trained over 3,260 young people, leveraging these regional and international key partners in the African entrepreneurial ecosystem to support African entrepreneurs. And this is in recognition of these youth entrepreneurs as engines of economic growth. And in partnership with the Global Center on Adaptation, we've also established what we call the Africa Adaptation Acceleration Program to mobilize $25 billion, part of which will be for the Empowering Youth for Entrepreneurship and Job Creation in Climate Adaptation and Resilience, in short, what we call Youth Adapt Program. This program will benefit at least 10,000 youth-led MSMEs and create 20,000 green jobs. So since the inception of Youth Adapt, 35 youth have benefited from $3.5 million to grow their businesses, of which 70 are currently undergoing a 12-month incubation program. By July 2022, which is just last year, the beneficiary youth-led MSMEs had created 60 additional direct jobs. So affordable access to finance, especially for the youth, warrants special attention. Africa has some of the highest lending rates in the world. When asked about preferences on the form of government support that they need, the results of most youth-led SME surveys underscores the need for accessible loans. Addressing this challenge would put African MSMEs in a position to better capitalize on the opportunities presented by the African Continental Free Trade Area. So in answer to that, or in response to that, the bank is establishing what we call the Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Banks. This is in recognition of the market failures and segmentation that prevent youth entrepreneurs from reaching their full potential and the need to provide technical and financial support for youth entrepreneurs. Therefore, through the design of these youth entrepreneurship investment banks, we seek to support our member countries in addressing these failures through the provision of financial and non-financial instruments, as well as services to de-risk youth entrepreneurs to increase the development of youth-led MSMEs and job creation. So these youth entrepreneurship investment banks will establish a funding scheme, a credit guarantee scheme, and technical assistance programs to strengthen providers of services to entrepreneurs. So basically concessional loans with long repayment periods, capacity building, mentorship, and financial skills to empower youth entrepreneurs. So in terms of policy support, these youth banks will also advocate to governments for the business enabling environment reforms needed to catalyze youth entrepreneurship. I would be remiss in my duty if I do not also mention our affirmative Finance for Women in Africa program, AFAWA in short, which was designed to address the $42 billion financing gap for women in Africa. Africa has the highest percentage of women entrepreneurs in the world, and because women are the backbone of the African economy, the bank has taken it upon itself to ensure that they are adequately financed and capacitated to conduct business, as well as make sure that the policy and regulatory landscape also allows them to flourish. I'd like to conclude by saying that we're all part of the ecosystem in this AfCFTA process, and the youth especially. We must all own its implementation and its success. The bank is proud to be partnered with and to support the objectives of the AfCFTA and initiatives of the AfCFTA Secretariat. To that end, we have previously provided financing of $5 million in institutional support to the AfCFTA Secretariat, and have further committed $11.4 billion for phase 2 of the same project, which was approved by the board last year. We will continue supporting the AfCFTA Secretariat, but also doing our bit to ensure that the environment is ripe for the youth to thrive in entrepreneurship, therefore creating employment, and that we exploit fully the numerous opportunities offered by the AfCFTA. The AfCFTA is the game changer for Africa's economic growth and development, and it is really critical that we create the right policy, institutional, and regulatory environment for it to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Memory, and thank you for highlighting and sharing with us this afternoon what the bank is doing, the programs that are in place. And I'm also heartened to hear that, yes, you are looking at women in Africa or in business, because there's a huge financing gap for women, and all the different programs that are in place at the bank for the African youth in turning the demographic challenge to actually be an opportunity for us. To wrap up this panel, I would like to call Dr. Nkosana Moyo, CEO of founder of Minds. So please take the floor and speak to us on the theme for today. A big hand to him.
Thank you very much, Facilitator. Let me start by thanking Kawe for that amazing rendition to kick us off.
You crazy.
But what was also interesting was that the way you illustrated how we are, and it is, I think, disappointing that we're not able to take advantage of such a work as well. And people keep telling us that Africa is very big, we've got diversity, which is very difficult to bring. But when you start looking at history and you understand where we all come from, you suddenly discover actually we're not that diverse.
Yeah.
or the diversity that is there can be used to our advantage rather than to our disadvantage. So thank you. Let me also thank Steve Ojako for just laying the ground as to where we are as far as the protocol is concerned. But I don't want to spend my time on that particular issue. The reason why this event is being framed the way it has been framed. In other words, the youth, social entrepreneurs and business people, there is a particular reason, a good reason for that. So where do we start from? We start off with the public sector and the politicians, framing very commendably a framework for the protocol. But the public sector and politicians, with all due respect, do not know business. Most of them, I don't think it's a fault, and I'm not going to blame them. I think we need to understand that they've done their best. Now the responsibility shifts to a different group in a complementary fashion. So if we are the business people and we know how business is conducted across border, we then need to come to the fore and firstly familiarize ourselves with the protocol, really understand how it's structured, so that we can identify where it's going to work and where it's not going to work, what are the blockages that are likely to arise. It's our responsibility. Without being accusatory, we need to engage and help the public sector bridge or get rid of those blockages. But I sort of get ahead of myself. Let me go back a little bit. How many people here from South Africa? I see quite a good number. So we are meeting under the auspices of Africa Day. Can one of the South Africans tell me why South Africa does not recognize Africa Day?
There are too many holidays.
It should be a public holiday.
Anybody got an answer? Yes. Yeah, but I think the evidence says South Africa actually doesn't. You recognize what we call Heritage Day. That's an internal issue. South Africa is a big player on the African continent. And I think that the signaling that South Africa gives the rest of the continent is important. In prior times, I used to meet a lot, when I was still active in business, I would meet a lot of South Africans who said to me, when they were going to the north, they would say we're going into Africa. When they were coming back, we're coming back from Africa. Am I telling you that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I think there are a lot of signals which I think are not in the right place. I believe that when we're talking about trade, intra-Africa trade, South Africa is going to be a big player, big player. And therefore, I think the signaling which says we stand aside, we're not sure whether we're African or not, is not going to be helpful. It is not helpful. My institution, mine, sponsors students to study on the Africa continent, but always outside of your own country. And it is fascinating when we listen to South Africans who've been out to another African country. Firstly, they are filled with trepidation before the war, because they say, you know, I'm not sure how I'm going to be received because of the perception of how my country is treating other Africans. And then when they get there and they're welcomed and there are no problems, they kind of say, wow, I really did not expect to be treated this way and to be received and welcomed this way. I think that's positive, but I want to also put it on record, by the way, and you're not going to like what I'm going to say. I actually do not blame South Africa as far as this issue of the way we handle immigration on the continent is concerned. And I say that, and I know that my countrymen probably will be at the forefront of wanting this done. That's the way it is. The reason why I empathize with South Africa is because I think every single nation is responsible for looking after its own citizens first. I think the fact that the rest of Africa helped, I'm sorry, translator, I'm touching a bit, but I think this is important. I think the fact that we helped, no, the fact that our forefathers, the leaders who led the liberation struggle, had incredible insight into that no African country should consider itself free until every one of us was free, should not be abused to mean that now we can come and just flock into South Africa. We've got countries elsewhere. And I think we ought to be taking our governments to task for not running their countries properly and looking after their citizens. That's their responsibility. And South Africa's responsibility is, yes, they can thank all of us for helping them, but their responsibility is to look after South Africans. So, yeah, but still, having said all of that, I think that South Africa should explicitly participate in celebrating Africa Day. That's my view.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so why are we today focusing on the youth, social entrepreneurs and business? The youth, I keep saying, very broad, our demographic tells us that the leverage of moving things on our continent lies in the hands of young people. To the extent that things are not working on our continent, I want to challenge young people. Most of you are younger than me. I think probably all of you are younger than me. I think that is your fault. It's your fault because all of our institutions, no matter how imperfect they are majoritarian. The majority actually counts. If you agitate, the politicians cannot afford to ignore. And we've demonstrated in many countries outcomes of elections when young people go out with clarity as what they want to do, they always influence the outcome of the election. What they are not doing as yet is to focus on the quality of the election. Even you, as young people, are still caught up in silly tribal issues. You elect not because people are capable of doing the job. You elect because you say, I know they come from, no, what did you say? I'm Shubi and I'm from Eastern Cape. No. Elect because somebody's got something to offer and they can do the job they're supposed to. When you look at our state-owned enterprises and where we kill them right across the continent, we need to sit up and think what it is we're doing wrong and change that. You can change it. You are educated, you are knowledgeable, you've got networks, you should actually support each other across borders when it comes to election time to get quality results. Good people and correct outcomes to get our countries going. So it is your responsibility. Point number 2. I think that you ought to identify in the context of the AFCTA what are the components focus on in order to, if you like, help the public sector get those things sorted out. So just now we had speakers who are based somewhere else trying to participate in this event. And it was clear that our infrastructure actually is not up to scratch. So when you do business across the continent, what are the things you're going to do? As a minimum, the infrastructure has to work. And what does that constitute? Communication infrastructure, transport infrastructure, and the travel infrastructure. The movement of goods and people requires those things to happen. Your knowledge of the rest of the continent requires communications to be functional. So you need to agitate to get those things sorted out. You need to agitate with our institution, the FDB, for them to put their money behind supporting the things that are going to make this work. A few years ago, there was talk of an Africa passport. Where is it today? It's not just talk incidentally. No. The public sector issues itself, the Africa passport. I suspect that a few presidents now have got it. So they facilitate for themselves visa issuance They travel on diplomatic passports, but you are supposed to do the business, and you are not facilitating. So those are the things you need to identify and then go out there with concrete issues that you need to deal with. It's not theory, it is practical. You know what you need to do business. You need information. You need to be able to travel and go and explore the markets, get to know them, get to know the people, get to know the products. It requires for you to physically travel. I've got interesting anecdotes. You may not be aware that the reason that Mercedes-Benz has got a plant in South Africa actually emanated from a Mercedes-Benz executive who visited South Africa. When he liked what he saw, he decided to go and agitate his company to put a plant in. That just illustrates visiting a country exposes you to what is there, and business then comes out of that. So facilitation for us to be able to visit, to travel across the continent, is a necessary condition for this thing to work. Infrastructure work. So we need to have that clarity. Beyond that, risk management for you. If you're going to go from here as a South African and go to Nigeria and fail to understand that there are people in Nigeria who understand their country better than you do, that you should be partnering with, that you should be seeking information from, then it means something is wrong. We're not thinking straight. So risk management requires that you begin to use your networks to connect with each other, not just for extraction of information, but to actually form partnerships. When you create what I call co-exposure. And what is interesting about it is that at the moment, we as Africans choose to take our capital, whether it's pension funds or whatever, and send them outside the country. Part of the reason, in terms of risk management, it's actually quite valid that we do that. You know why? Because if a Nigerian is not exposed to my country, they don't have their assets at risk in my country, and I put my assets at risk in their country, and I lose my money, they lose nothing. But when you create interlinked exposure, so if I, as a Zimbabwean, come to South Africa and find a South African partner, go to Zambia, find a Zambian partner, go to Ghana, find a Ghanaian partner, Nigeria, find a partner, then holding company together, and invest in these countries. All of a sudden, our understanding of cross-border risk gets aligned. Immediately, you don't have to theorize about it. I now know my money is in Nigeria, is in Zambia, but they also now know their money is exposed in my country. And now we're going to have a conversation which does not need university professors at all. We're going to talk as business people who understand what you exposing your assets to another country looks like. Yeah, this is practical stuff. It's not theoretical. And the only way you make things practical is to get real people and their daily lived experiences to align with what it is you're trying. When we do that, we'll succeed. I understand the colleague who said, we like to write things, we like to do things, but not much gets done. Sadly, it's because we have not found the correct methodology, the architecture, making it personal, but personal on an inclusive basis, where it becomes self-evident what we're trying to do. Then it will work. So, South Africans, please, when you travel to the north, don't say I'm traveling to Africa. Try to persuade your government to participate in explicitly honoring this day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Moyo. I really think it's time that we have some fireside chat on how we can integrate data as a continent. And yes, it does start with traveling from one country to another to see the opportunities that are there. And thank you for reminding us that actually it's not only up to the policymakers and the architects of the AFCFTA to make it work, that it's up to us, especially as business people. And I really want to jump into the next session where we're going to ignite talks with young Africans who are actually in business. But before we do that, can we give a big hand to Given Mama's boy who's here to give us an interview? Given, Africa has talent.
Afternoon, oh mama's boy.
Unfortunately, I want to say, the only thing that I can do here is to give you what I have. Yeah, let's go. Let's give the chief and the charge. Can you give me one? Okay. But if you're not safely, I'm throwing the man down. If they play another song, my next one. I'm just doing the next one because I'm always starving. Sure. We
Parents together for given moments for. Thank you very much.
Can I kindly ask that you please take your seat as we move forward in our program with Ignite Talk. Those standing outside, do you mind please coming in? Tarifai, Kamala, please come in. We're about to start with our next session. All right. By a show of hands, who knows who Omeife is? Omeife. I'll give you a hint. Omeife is Nigerian, but very much African. And she is supposedly female, but not quite. And Omeife is actually a grown woman, but her stature is like that of a child. No cooking? This is what Professor Moyo was talking about. You don't even have to leave your country or your room to travel the continent. Actually, Omeife was launched in Nigeria in 2022. She is the first African humanoid robot. So I've introduced you to somebody, and her creators hope to inspire young Africans to pursue careers in the field of IT. And without taking too much of your time, ladies and gentlemen, we've got some business people in the room with us. Let's hear from the experiences of young business people in Africa to talk us through what the AFCFTA means for them. Our Ignite Talks are sponsored by APN. First up, we've got from South Africa, Nandi Gwanazi, who is the founder of Nanloy Organic Farming. She's an entrepreneur. Big hand to Nandi. And then we've got Edith Njange. She's a serial entrepreneur of African startup. Eden is from Kenya. She's going to give us regional perspectives as well as her experiences in Kenya. Eden? We had a wrong mic.
Hi, everyone. I think I need to say my name again. So it's Edith Njagi. Yes, you don't know we're butchering each other's names. I like to say I'm African, but I was born in Kenya. So I am not a Kenyan, okay? Under the AFCFTA, there's no South African, Zimbabwean, Zambian, Kenyan, there's none of that. We are Africans. You just happen to be born in South Africa. So as an African born in Kenya, I am a social and serial entrepreneur. I know Nancy will introduce herself. We met because we actually met in a forum like this, but because of that, we've ended up working together, which I think is amazing. And it's the point, right? My background, I am a triple master's holder because Africa deserves the best. Africa deserves the best. And as young people, we must be the best. This is why the West is ahead of us. We are not our best, I was scared. In terms of what I do for business, I do venture building. This means that I work with businesses in different spectrums of their growth. Currently across 13 African markets, everything from expansion, new product services, raising capital, leveraging on trade, right? The legal side of things, partnerships, and just making sure that they have the best possible team. So to date, I've worked with slightly over 7,000 businesses on the African continent. So that's my background. But I think what Nancy does is just as beautiful. She'll introduce herself. But Africa, we have a crisis, guys. Let me tell you the crisis. We're going to starve because all of our farmers are likely over 65. So when they die, if you are Gen Z, what are you gonna eat? Ask yourself that question. What are you gonna eat? Okay, so Nancy is a farmer, but I should talk about what she does.
My name is Nandiwa Mkwanazi. I am an organic farmer. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm also the executive chairperson of the African Youth Business Council. My work is focused on changing the African climate change and solution-based education. I also work with the South African Organic Sector Organization, where we facilitate access to markets for smallholder farmers. And I am one of the 20 South Africans that were chosen to start a PJs in my area, which is Ekurhuleni, Benoni. Part of my work there is to design a curriculum that ensures that farmers are linked to the organic standards as held by FOM. My company is called Nando Organic Farm, and we're an RB startup that focuses on using innovation and indigenous African knowledge to produce high-value foods. We also teach young children how to grow their own food, how to process their own food, with a specific focus on African indigenous crops, which we unfortunately have lost, through colonization and things like that. So I am very invested in seeing my people rise from where they are to be their best. And I would just like to thank the organizers and thank the African Food Entrepreneur Network for inviting us to participate in the talks. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we can start off with a conversation. I will work like an MC, but also a speaker. Yeah, so that's the plan, guys. That's the plan. So you understand what's happening. So Nancy, how do you think the AFCFTA can be accelerated? I know the audience has heard about it from a policy standpoint. On the ground, how can it be accelerated, in your opinion?
So one of the ways that I think that it can be accelerated is to initiate public awareness. So, there's high level stakeholder engagements like these ones, where people that are involved in trade and businesses in different sectors, are knowledgeable about the AfCFTA, gaps are filled, we have conversations around that, but actually the people, which is the general public, a lot of them don't actually know about the free trade agreement. They don't even understand how it relates to it. As somebody who owns a business in Davidson, how does it facilitate my access to the wider, bigger African continent? So in order to be able to do that, we really need to initiate conversations at that level. And I think it's not only, like Dr. Moyo said, we all have a responsibility to play. And it's not only the responsibilities of national and continental governmental leaders, but it's also the responsibility of us as entrepreneurs to ensure that, we transfer the knowledge and the skills that we already have about the free trade agreement. Over and beyond that, I think people that are really, in the forefront of getting the voices of the voices to be heard as civil societies and NPOs, just like the African Fellowship United, that are really instrumental of ensuring that marginalized people actually gain the access to knowledge and information that can help them better themselves, through business and education. So that's one of the ways that we can accelerate the AfCFTA.
I think I'll speak about it to add on to her point from a practicality standpoint. Now, let's look at business registration. If you're trying to set up a business in Africa, what country, okay, this is a bit of a quiz, because I said I'm also the moderator, what country would be the fastest for you to do this? She said South Africa, you're wrong. Lift up your hands and shout it if you, yes. Live. Hey, Kenya, you're outside. Outside. Yes, there you go. Give her a cookie. She's doing. It takes 2 hours in Rwanda. Kenya, be very ashamed where you're sitting. Because Kenya is 3 weeks for most. South Africa is about 5 to 7 days. Eh? Now, how do I know this? Because I am a person, when I say I'm a serial entrepreneur, I have set up businesses in different locations. Now, when we're talking about accelerating the AfCFTA, it's for business people to understand, and I always tell entrepreneurs this, sometimes it's not your idea that's wrong, you're just in the wrong market. And that happens so often, and a lot of entrepreneurs end up giving up hope when they don't revenues that they should. And instead of looking at another market, then despair. Africans, it's time for us to realize that we are what we are Africans. Okay, me, I'm not a Kenyan because I have businesses in other countries. So it's for us to talk about things like this. When we talk about accelerating the AfCFTA, the other thing to ask ourselves is, when you're doing agreements, what jurisdiction meaning which country should be listed as all these laws are under, or in case of any issue, mediation, etc. will happen in country X. Okay, so how is that jurisdiction chosen? If Nandi and I in business, she's in South Africa, I'm in Kenya. How is the jurisdiction for the agreement chosen? Are you hearing the questions that I'm asking you? This is from a practical standpoint, right? So to accelerate the AfCFTA, these are some of the issues. I do a lot of business with Ethiopia. Ethiopia is the most lucrative market in Africa, in my opinion. I do a lot of business in Ethiopia, but anytime I need to travel or anytime I need to transact, I take my Kenya shillings, I go to the bank, I get dollars. I get my dollars when I land in Ethiopia, I change my dollars into bill. If I want to change my bill back into dollars on my way back, I cannot unless I go through the black market. When we say acceleration, I'm talking about the basics. I haven't even talked about bank accounts, guys. I'm still in the basics. So in order to accelerate, there are certain adjustments that need to happen in all these countries in a structural and infrastructure perspective that might not be something that government can see. A person the challenge. But learning are being done, conversations are being had. But then can I help myself? No one must record this for my government, okay? So Nancy, another question. What is the possible impact, right? Assuming all goes well and the AFCFTA is implemented as it should be, what is the possible impact of the AFCFTA on youth, women, businesses and experts, right? As well as countries? What impact can you see that would happen?
Okay, so we all know that African women are the biggest contributors to cross-border trade, and unfortunately, we are amongst the most marginalized. So when I bring it to my context as a farmer, getting investment in infrastructure will reduce costs for me. I am currently in primary production, and I obviously want to tap deeper and go deeper into the value chain and go into agro processing. But currently, the cost of storage, the cost of converting a harvest to an end product are very costly. So having the AFCFTA, spearhead that for me would be a big game changer. Because we do have ideas, we've tried things, particularly in the South African market, where the organic sector is not that big, and like what you say, that it's important to look at other markets. That are more open to things that your current market will not necessarily like. For instance, in Tanzania and Uganda, they are very pro-organic. So, if I'm growing short-term fruits such as watermelon and spicy, I've got a huge demand, from those countries as opposed to my own country. Because if I take it to the normal farmers market, they're just not going to consider how much more time it's taking as an organic farmer to actually get the produce from seed for it to be ready for the market. But when you're looking at other markets outside of my own country currently, it's more favorable for me to trade within those particular markets. So for youth and women-owned businesses, having a legal instrument protocol that is focused on us would obviously change that. It would give us better access to finances. And just like Dr. Tu was saying, that the African Development Bank has really looked into how they can actually mitigate a lot of the challenges that young women and young people generally have in accessing those opportunities for their businesses. So that's one of the ways that it would impact my business. It would reduce my cost. It would mean that I get to the market quicker. It would mean that I start tapping into the different points of the value chain, as opposed to just being in primary agriculture where I'm growing something that does not have such a long shelf life. And if I want to transport it out and it's not agro-processed, then obviously I lose that produce. I lose a lot of money in my investment while I'm getting it from South Africa to Uganda or Tanzania.
I love that Nandy brought up the capital angle, because there's a lot of financing available for African businesses. If you didn't know, now I have told you. The key challenge, however, that I find is, for example, most of the businesses that I have connected to capital, it tends to be between $300,000 to $100 million. So in your mind, just think of an African business right now that you know of, right? Maybe you even have someone who sets up that can absorb $100 million.
No.
Does anyone have one in their mind? Exactly. So this is part of the problem, right? The capital is there. What we lack is that absorption capacity. And the reason why we lack this is because we are one man solo winning. One of the professors here talked about the element of coming up with a conglomerate consortium holding structure. I think that's what we need to do. Okay? Don't do standalone business. And when I say that I'm working a lot with Nandy, because I said, what I'm doing is great, but if I combine it with what she's doing, it will be phenomenal. If we combine it with this other company, this is the company, this is the company, we're unstoppable. Our valuation put together goes up. So when we sit on a table and we're negotiating, be it for a convertible, for a safe, for equity investment, for, I'm not a fan of grants, or for what else? For any sort of trade facilitation, we're a lot more powerful. We have a lot more capacity. So this is part of the problem. Individual businesses cannot be individually successful. Come together as a value chain, number one. Come together in a consortium, conglomerate, holding structure. There are other more looser agreements, right? There's joint venture, strategic alliances that are looser agreements that can still allow for that access or to capital that you can actually absorb. But still alongside that, I think the other thing to talk about is African businesses don't have contact to the right people, right? What I'm telling you is not publicly available information on Twitter, TikTok, or Facebook, okay? If it is, you can let me know, or you can record it now so that it is there. But anyway, a lot of this is not easily available for most businesses. So they're sitting and they're looking for capital and they're struggling and they're wondering it's not there, or they're going to their banks and they're being given interest rate of 16-24%. Which business, okay, assume, right? I am a business. Nandi is a business, right? She's in farming. She comes to me, I'm the bank. She asks for a business loan. I give her a loan, okay? Let's say she asks for 5 million rand. I give her 5 million rand. I give it to her, let's say at 16%. The next month, I'm expecting Nandi to come and pay on this loan. What is that? What is that? So how does a business take your 5 million and make it make money in 1 month? Are you understanding the question I'm asking?
Yes.
So now it becomes an issue of understanding African businesses. So there's capital that's available that allows African businesses to have 1 year moratorium, meaning you don't pay the next month, you pay 1 year later. Where you don't pay 16%, you pay 4%. Or 6%, but you're doing it against the dollar or the euro. You're not borrowing in a local currency, which is better. Why? Especially when you're looking at trade, you don't want to be sitting on rands if you're trying to trade with Uganda, right? So these are all things that we need to understand. Now, the final bit then that I want to talk about is the gaps that you see in accessing the AFCFTA for yourself as a business person, and how this AFCFTA change.
So for me, the gaps that I initially had, I was able to fill by accessing, thought leaders that are working within trade that were more familiar and more knowledgeable, which is part of the reason why you and I met. So for me, that's one of the ways that I did. I sought out information because I heard about it, before it came, and I thought, oh, great, this will obviously give me access to the markets that I previously did not have, that I wanted to have. But it was also my responsibility to seek. And in the seeking, I found the challenges, and I thought, how better can I actually change that for myself and people like myself in my position? Because it's not enough that I have the information, that I've managed to be able to mitigate the challenges that I've had. So in closing my own gaps, I found it very pivotal that I also pull other people with me. So that, because if I win and, I teach other people what I know, we win together. And it's one of the ways that we were able to form, some of the businesses that we involved in. We're able to leverage on other people's knowledge. We're able to leverage on other people's lived experiences and context, like you said. So that's one of the ways that I think we can close the gap or close the gap. How is it? Oh, yes, okay. So it's brought to the forefront the fact that, Africa is capable. We've always been capable, and unfortunately that we've been failed and that we've also ourselves have repeated, is that we're not adequate enough, we are unable, but that's totally not true. When we're seeing that, when we're seeing how young people and females are in the forefront of changing that. So I see it as being an instrument of trade, of change. It's, helping us grow our business quicker. That's one of the things. It's helping us bring change into our communities, both regionally and nationally. So that's one of the ways that I see it being an instrument of change.
Okay, I think for me, the key challenge is, so since I'm from Kenya, right? What I'm seeing in the EAC so far in terms of trade has been amazing. We have one-stop border posts, right? Meaning, when you get to the border of Kenya, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, it's like they're facing each other. So crossing the border is between here and there. And it makes it so easy for business people to cross within a few hours. With trucks and larger sized goods, it's an issue and it takes more time than it should. But what I'm starting to see already is that ease of movement, just from that one-stop border post. Also the fact that for me, my passport is not a Kenyan passport, it's an East African citizen passport. I think that's a big step forward, right? I do know that currency would be very helpful because currency is one of the things that hits business people every single day. Having one currency as African countries is something that we need to prioritize. I'm also realizing that a challenge that I'm seeing is we as people, right, need to understand that we are the same. We might have different tribes, speak different languages, have different accents, come from different ways of life, but we are the same. And I think that understanding helps because when it gets to a point where I'm expanding, right now in my team, I have 13 different nationalities across my different businesses. But why? Because I understood I don't want a certain country, I want the best. And sometimes the best is from Eritrea. Sometimes the best is from Ghana. So even as we're thinking about building and leveraging on AFCFTA, it has a lot to do with businesses, but it also has a lot more to do with talent. And I want to see doctors coming from South Africa going to treat in Nigeria. I want to see lawyers coming from South Africa to go and work on agreements in Mauritania because there are gaps. Right? There are gaps. So even as we're talking about the AFCFTA, I think the free movement protocol, which is the sister idea like for the AFCFTA, is something that cannot be ignored. Now, is this an instrument of change? Yes, but in the right hands. The AFCFTA is first for the youth. Why do I say this? Is it not for Vision 2060? It is. Now, will the 60-year-olds be around in 2060? Maybe some, like you're special. You've been eating your meals, like you've been on your case if you're around. Now, what does this mean? Most of our politicians, on average, are about that age. So is it their AFCFTA or is this ours? It's ours. We're the ones who are going to see the fulfillment of it. So because it is first for the young person, even when I hear protocol for youth and women, I'm like, okay, I understand for women. I don't understand why youth are there. The AFCFTA is the protocol for the youth. Because the youth are the ones that are going to either realize it or not. So it's not about our politicians. It's not about the people negotiating. They're saying what they're saying. Some of them are making mistakes. Some of them are doing a great job. That's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to take what we have and begin running with it on the ground. And guess what? Africans make bank. I don't like the way sometimes Africans were humble, right? Young people must build wealth, period. I don't believe anything else. So even as you're building wealth, right? And even as you're making bank, do it across Africa. Don't just do it in South Africa. South Africa is small. I don't know if you know, it's small. Africa is massive. So I pray that you take it by force. But that's it from us, unless Nandy has a parting shot.
So my parting shot is just to touch on what you said. You know, there's a huge focus on creating employment. This is B2 sector, this is the ed sector. But I'm very loyal to my calling, and I know what my calling is, you know. I'm called to nurture nature, and I've built businesses around that. I've built businesses to support that calling. So I think it's very important as a young person to actually know what your talent is, to know what your calling is, and build on that. You know, build the skills, build the networks to support that. And obviously challenges will come, and sometimes businesses don't work. You know, I've started businesses before, and I've had to close them because it wasn't the time, the market was not working, and so forth and so on. But you know, in closing, as much as yes, we want to create wealth, very important. Yes, we want to build Africa, but it's very important to look within yourself. You know, why are you here? What are you contributing, and how are you ensuring that you remain loyal to your calling? Because I think if we all do that, you know, we'll really see Africa start to actually change to become what we know it actually can be. So that's fine.
Thank you very much, Nandi and Eden. I actually feel that that session was, if I could. I can see that. Yeah, so I would say that was business 101 for the AFCFTA. Really, that was just breaking it down. Splendid example of what we mean by transmission, Kenya, South Africa, working together because of the need that's there. Yes, you did mention the importance of OSBPs, what the order posts, passports, currency. There's a lot of lessons to be gleaned from people actually doing business across different borders. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here for the youth as well, who are the drivers of the African ones, the drivers of the African continental free trade area. I would like to call upon Tarisai, please, to come forward. Like I said, who would you yeah, so she's going to help you right now with the next session.
Thank you very much. And when you say I'm now calling upon the youth, I'm not sure if that was in reference to Tarisai. But anyway, thank you so much. And we are now getting to the most exciting part of the day. I think this is what we have all been waiting for. We have had everyone speak, but now I'm going to usher you into what I'm calling the grand debate. When I was preparing for this debate, I'm not going to be debating, they will come, the responsible debaters. But when I was preparing for this debate, I spoke to a few youth online. And what they were saying is that some of them, they asked me this question: what is after? They don't know. Those when you say it, they thought that it's just an ambitious agreement, highly ambitious. And some of them say the benefits only exist on paper. And some of them say the agreement is creating economies are thriving, there's free movement, but at this moment, I would want to call upon the debaters, the grand debaters, who are going to debate respectfully. They're not going to debate against each other, but against facts only. So, ladies and gentlemen, may you give a round of applause to the most smartly dressed two gentlemen here. These are SRC leaders. So the SRC leaders will be this side. Then I also have the young parliamentarians.
So they want.
Or the representatives of the young parliamentarians. May you please come forward. Don't be shy, please come. We need to wrap this up with a bang. Kamala and her colleague. Thank you so much. So the question, what we need to understand is after, is there anything for you in this agreement? Is it working? Has it worked? Are you benefiting? Are you not? Is it just an empty piece of paper or it's not? All right. So this side, there is support of the AfCFTA agreement. This side, they are against. So here's the opening argument.
Thank you very much. And greetings to all the aspiring future people who will ensure that Africa is a free trade zone. Africa is a continent where no barriers exist amongst ourselves, a continent that will be able to eradicate all the constraints that emerged from colonialism. My name is Kabelo Fumayo, the acting president of the SRC. And what I would just like to firstly outline is that really, when we were invited to this program, when I saw AfCFTA, I was like, what is this? That was the first question. I was like, what is this now? And as I did more research and I kept on reading and reading and reading, I'm like, this is what we've been actually looking for all along. I mean, if we properly look at it, DP, drawing from Walter Rodney, you would say that Europe underdeveloped Africa in the same time that Africa developed Europe. Okay. Now, when you critically look at that argument, what is basically being said there is that the only thing we need to do as Africans is to reverse that action of being underdeveloped and developing other people. Now, how does that really happen? I think you've articulated it very well. You actually took most of the points you wanted to make. So we firstly look at the monetary system. You understand? One of the first few things that I looked at and I saw, this must actually be one of the first goals of AfCFTA, to say that let us ensure that the medium of exchange, in as much as we want trade to be free, but the medium of exchange must also enable our socio-economic standards and conditions so as to ensure that we are then able to trade freely. Because if the medium of exchange still requires us to use a currency that was developed in another continent, it means that we're like toddlers in Antarctica, but naked, basically. So honestly, my opening statement is just revolving around how did we get here? Why are we even saying and chanting for free trade? And how we got here is simply by the constraints that were produced by colonialism. And as I have opened with Walter Rodney, he makes very good arguments for me. And all I would just like to make it very critical here is that the world is changing, and it's changing rapidly so. And as Africans, we must then position ourselves in such a way that we are able to catch the flow of change as well, and then we're able to direct it such that it benefits Africans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you've all heard the president speaking. Who can argue with the president? But unfortunately, we do have the time that is going to argue with the president. So over to you.
Greetings. I'm part of Management Forum, which is an NPO that has been in existence for over 4 years. As much so, we were at the forefront of negotiating for triple BBE. At some point, Ndate Mahale was one of the presidents, or rather, he led the organization. However, as much as I'm here to unpack a topic about free trade within the continent. And my arguments are against it. In particular, so it is because it fails to protect infant businesses. What do I mean by that? Small medium enterprises won't be able to thrive.
And let us just tailor it further. It's almost impossible for, okay, please burn me your imagination here. It will be almost impossible for Blue Ltd or PTY to compete with Maxsteel. Why so? Maxsteel has already gained brand awareness. It knows how to operate within bureaucratic procedures. They know how to operate with their eyes closed. What do we mean here? For infant businesses, now we need to take it back to the township rural development. It will be almost impossible for them to compete in a standard way whereby they need to come together or come to communicate with other countries within the African continent to say, hey, can we drop that policy here to say, how can we move one goods to another in our country to your country? In this term, it will be impossible for them again to commercialize and also to create employment. Currently sitting at an unimaginable state whereby employment for young people, it's hard for them to get. Therefore, it's also not, it's impossible to imagine small medium enterprises to trade within the 3-continent area. Thank you.
The big question here is the argument for the elite youth, those who have access. What about those who are in the rural areas? But I don't know. I've been told to be neutral, and I'm very neutral. So we'll cross over to the other side and just hear what the vice president, if that's so, he has to say. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, or rather, we're going into the evening soon. So, yeah, I'm Kamkelo Mavi, the SRC Deputy President, and obviously our side is to maintain our stance within, being for the free trade. And I think our, respectable against debate today mentioned something very important. However, I think we all need to reflect honestly on the journey that we are trying to go in for and take some pointers from what has already been laid forth before us by Edith. Edith, I think, interestingly says that how is it that we are going to stand as individual businesses? I think when we're speaking about small businesses, I think small businesses, also equally have a responsibility, to somehow, some way gather the strength from each other and now build that elite form of business, that we're trying to come up with. So I think that is just one thing that I'd like to bring forth, that small businesses do have a chance, in the bigger market if they will be able to form strategic alliances, because I don't think the big businesses started just by simply being that one business and then putting itself on the ground like that. I think we also learned from the South African market as well that there are businessmen who have failed and then emerged businesses, and now they are some of the leading business people within the country itself. So what does that mean then for the continent? I think that means that within the free trade in itself, it's for me, I want to take it from the 125% of the world's, economy, which is the USA, whereby the USA, before it became the United States of America, it started as different states, and then at one point, states were coming in, and then it became then one big, country now, which is known as the United States of America. And I think then if we look at our continent itself, if you look at the economy, what we look at in terms of a single market, the currency in itself, maybe this is actually a start as well to say that we can form a United States of Africa that can be a global player and not just be within itself and scattered around. I mean, there's 42 currencies in 54 countries. How is it that we are like that, whereas we are such a powerful and continent? So I think it's all about starting from the roots and going up. So we cannot say that these businesses that are disadvantaged in this process. It's just all about forming alliances, and we take it to the countries in itself being able to utilize this free trade. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Vice President. I think from what you're saying, indeed, the AFTA agreement is a game changer, according to him. But Kamala, what are your thoughts?
So in Africa, we have, how do we call it? Is it a story? It's a proverb. They say if you see the rat running with fire, know what's chasing it is hotter than fire. So that after for us in the continent. If you look at the African continent itself, they are accepting the protocol, but everyone looking at it, they look fire instead of looking at it. It's hot, it's hotter. I give you the scenario. There, it's easy for a white person from Europe to travel across African continent free without being disturbed. But when a black person shows his face at the border, you will understand why you are born in Africa or why you are born a black person. Because they are giving privilege to the white people more than their own. You know, today as we are speaking in the African continent, we have some of the Africa countries, they are providing visa free for European countries, but not for their fellow Africans. Other countries, you need to pay more than $150, and you need to wait more than 3 weeks to get their visa. So if you want them to trade tomatoes from South Africa to Nigeria, and you want for 3 weeks, what will be the situation of your tomato? You think they will be surviving in the market again? Eh? I was looking at my country, Tanzania. Around 8% of the tenders on the construction have been provided for Chinese companies and other companies from outside. We have the universities that are providing the engineers, but those engineers, you will never see them on the field. And we are talking to create young people that will go to international market. If every country are providing tenders for foreigners, where does the young people get skills that will enable them to compete internationally or secure the seats on international market? So I think it's not even in Tanzania, but in the other countries. If you just go to South Sudan, if you just go, it's the same. And what kind of skills are we providing for young people today to compete in the international market? In our countries, you will be surprised, we still learn about agrarian revolution, First World War. Those are the things we are wasting time on. Why don't people in China today, they're learning about the technology. They're learning on how to take the market. But for our kids, we are preaching them about Achiduke, how does Achiduke cause the First World War. We are teaching them about long distance trade. We are teaching them about things that never even matters in our life. Wasting a lot of time with things that never matter. So you cannot have young people who will just go to compete in the world market. The other thing, you are from South Africa, you travel into Nigeria. The first thing they will take you outside of the continent, because who owns the means of transport? They will take you to UK or to Dubai, and again they bring you back to Africa. You know how many hours you spend on the way? You know how many hours you spend? So if you want to do business, it's failure in itself. Okay, the last one. Trust. How many of people here do you think that you can send money to Nigerian brother and you send to your others you send the money? So you are here preaching about the free trade, where you know that you cannot send the money to your brother in Nigeria, deliver the goods that you order. So you just go to buy the Amazon, you just go to buy the other establishing platform, right? But you want to buy for your brother. because you have created the people that we are not trusting in the continent. You understand? So we are looking at this big thing. But the environment we have, they are not. The last one. Okay? I'm not a politician, but the politicians they say the last one and the last one and the last one. I'm not a politician, so I will do the last one. The last one. We have in Africa, we have this tendency. You know, when people are getting older, when they're getting older, they see that there is no enough space for them to acquire presents. You know what they do? They create institutions because they want to have a seat and to get more money. So if he was an ambassador, once the government more than 20 years, you become an ambassador outside of the country. When you return after they retire, they establish an institution. Not because it's serving young people, no, it will be the name of young people, but who are there, they are not the young. So you will find an organization is led by an ambassador. When there is a meeting for discussing the issues, is calling the entire ambassador. So you find the war room is all the people and it's a meeting for young people, and there are only 4 young people. So these are the institutions we have in Africa. If you look at them, because look what kind of trade do you going to create? You have I saw everyone here has a good design. You design a thing today, and there is no one who is protecting your design. Tomorrow, you will find a big company has already produced your design, hundreds of copies in the market. Do you think we are going to get creative young people are going to produce? No. So I think we need to rethink. Yeah, to rethink. If you just go to the border. Okay, the last one. Let's go to the border. We are here preaching about free movement of goods and people across the continent, right? Those who are preaching and those who are acting, they are in different way of understanding things. Because I've seen terrible things in my country sometimes with in the region. The other time we had some farmers transporting here to Kenya. And they reached at the border, the Kenyans, they're not in your face. Because we have our own things. But it was not because there was a political understanding between the leaders of the country. You know what happened? Tons and tons of maize, they are roasted. Who the roads were not the readers, they were the farmers, right? So those who are standing at the board, when they show up, like, no, there is free movement of goods and the people across the continent. They say, who told that? So the border migration of part and parcel, if you are not prepared them to get into this, you will never succeed because they will be neglecting the young people to move. So the young people, they will see the option is planning for Europe. So what's happening at Lampedusa, we are in the Sahara Desert, and millions of young people are dying because there is no sustainable environment at their home countries. You saw by yourself every day on the news, young people that are running outside of the country. If you just go to the embassy, you'll find a long queue of young people. They want to go to Europe. While our grandfathers were taken by force, but for we young people, we want to go by ourselves.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Last one. Yeah, thank you so much, Kamal. I think all this is just pointing out to how to really create an enabling environment for the agreement to really thrive. But I will give an opportunity to my president to just give their closing arguments because Kamala took all the time. So you can just give your closing arguments and we'll be done.
So I hope I'm not going to have too many last ones, but I'd like to share the last one also with my fellow president here. So I think you know, the second speaker, when they started, at one point, I felt like they were leaning towards us, you know, this side, because some of the things that they were, you know, mentioning speaks in terms of obviously trying to reclaim, you know, our identity as Africans, and most importantly within the economic sector itself. And what do I mean by this? I want to just make an example for, like, if you look at Nigeria at the current moment, with them having to build the airport that they are currently building, where are they sourcing in the money? They're sourcing it in from, you know, America, whereby to America, it's beneficial to them because when you are traveling through Nigeria now to go to America, unlike having to travel through Dubai, you know, through the Emirates. So what is that? It's beneficial towards America because they are taking away the economy away from you know, the Asian side of things. What about Africans? Africans now become like the puppet between two different world powers. You understand? But that, I think, should also be something that lays a foundation for us as Africans to say that what's the type of economy that we want to set for ourselves. And I think this free trade in itself, it speaks to what we should actually do, because once the free trade becomes one, where all the countries become one within the single market and the currency in itself, then whatever that is then being done between the two world powers and whatever that they try to do, it's no longer, you know, it cannot emerge, because there's this now third world power, which is Africa in itself, you know, that is coming in. But myself as a, you know, to be teacher, there's always one thing when you speak about decolonization and how we look at decolonization, right? And most recently, we're looking at colonization within the economy itself, whereby if you look at what is happening when you're in university, you're somehow trying to be, you're taught to go into an economy that is already colonized in itself. You're going into the business sector, which is colonized in itself. So I think already on its own, the free trade, it's a starting point to actually decolonize it, because once you decolonize the market, then it comes down to the institution now, whereby wherever we teach people and whatever we teach them to be Africa oriented, therefore now you are actually teaching people how you are teaching whoever that wants to go into the business sector how to be African oriented within the business sector, within the economy in itself, which means that the free trade can actually come now from the roots going back up, which is what I've been saying, that if you're looking at 2063, it's true. The people who are setting all these visions and whatever, 2063, where will they be? We don't know. But what we should look at in terms of 2063 in itself is that if you look at the free trade now and started, probably in 2063, you'll actually have it within the curriculum, within the schools, to teach how these young aspiring business people can be African-centered within the business market. I think the fellow president would like to add on anything, which is closing.
Okay, no, thank you very much. I'm gonna be very long and short now. So really, colleagues, when we start looking at this concept of a free trade very critically, I think the speakers who are against it, they are not really against it. Like, if you really listen to them, they are not really against it. They are just saying that there are these barriers which should be hard for us to cross through, right? And what we are saying is that let us identify these barriers and then find models which will allow us to break through them. Okay. So the reason, colleagues, that side why comrades called for a free trade in Africa is because, one, notice that most of the imports that we are actually taking from other countries, the money that we spend on imports is greater than the money that we generate from exports. So if we're calling for a free trade, what we are literally saying there is that we are not just saying that goods must just move freely, but it goes deeper, as my colleague has noted, that it even goes to the education itself, because at the end of the day, where do these goods that we want them to be freely traded coming from? That's the first question. Where do they come from? You understand? If we are producing them as Africans, I don't see what is wrong with us trading it
with the neighbor next door, rather than me waiting for a European to come and extract my materials, and then I go buy it again from them. So again, understand the deficit that comes between the import and the export when we look at African countries. Now, the other thing that I also wanted to make, there's a very critical point. Yeah, I'm on the short part now, the long one is done. There was a very critical point that was made, and that was about this issue of traveling, the mobility of Africans. I think one of the issues we have, and I think it was noted by many of the speakers, is that I don't know what's happening in Ghana. I don't know what's happening in Kenya. The only thing that I see is, of course, engineered, what is this, media representations as to what is actually happening in Ghana. So part of us having a free trade is us having synergy and solidarity as Africans and understanding ourselves from intercultural perspectives. So you really need to start this at ground levels and also look at the justification as to why are we doing a free trade before I give the long speeches. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Everyone, I really wish that we had more time, but unfortunately we don't. So at this point, I'll just go ahead and announce the winner. So, okay. So what I can see is that both teams are winners. They ultimately gotten the winning prize because what they've exposed are the gaps and successes that we can all think about. So I think this is food for thought for everyone. Thank you very much. And my name is Chancellor, by the way. Happy Africa Day.
Thank you very much. Tarifai, don't take your seat yet. You're helping me. Ladies and gentlemen, we're almost done with our program for the day. But I just want to find out if there are one or two burning questions or input from people sitting in the room. Less than a minute. Does anybody want to say something? Tarifai, there's a hand here. But you're just from talking. In less than a minute of time.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. As much as I was against it, but let me just say something because I want to see Africa that works for us. My recommendations to policymakers, please, whenever we have these type of conversations, may they never be seen as tick boxes. May we give birth to things that have to formulate in Africa. The Africa that we want, it won't just happen within a blink of an eye. It has to be a work in progress, a work that, as much as Prof. Moyo has stated so much of wisdom, it's important that ultra experienced people must be amongst young people because we need to complement the knowledge and the wisdom that they have by implementing. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any online questions? Please read them quickly. Okay, not yet. All right. So I understand that we have the Tanzanian Member of Parliament. Would you like to come and say a few words for us? Give a round of applause. Good evening. Mambo.
Wow, Swahili Nation. My name is Nusrat Hanje, Member of Parliament from Tanzania, representing youth, and I'm from the minority in the Parliament. Yeah, ninafurahi sana. I'm so happy to be here. Now, we East Africans, we wish who continent could speak Swahili. Yeah. Because it's very easy to speak Swahili. Actually, the Swahili language is very romantic. Ni lugha tamu. Tamu means a very sweet language. Laini, very soft. Yeah, let me not waste your time. I was online, then I decided to come here quickly, and now I'm glad that I made it. I know you're closing. But for me, because I was listening online and also I had an opportunity to hear very, I think very young men speaking, not very young, but young. Yeah. For me, it's a task because we are talking of a very young continent. Africa, as we all know, that Africa is a very young continent with the young population under 35. And for me, it's a task to make sure that my parliament is also taking part on making sure that we amend the frameworks and the instruments so that we can celebrate the agreement. That is what I call it, this agreement, I call it a very friendly to young people and women, because we are talking about free movement, we are talking about free trade across the continent. So for me, it's a task that I'll task myself, making sure that my government is adhering to these frameworks so that we can all come together as Africa, so that we can benefit most of us who are young people, because we are talking about unemployment, we are talking about young people not having decent works and good jobs. But when we are talking about entrepreneurship and small business, we are talking about the informal sector. And I hope this agreement, we all know that agreement, this agreement will benefit most of young people who are not, most of them are not in the formal sector. So it's a task that I'm carrying that task to my country. And also we have, in the parliament, we have Youth Parliamentary Forum, which is, we decided to take it under 40 because we are very few. For us who are under 35, we are very few. We are like maybe 26 or 27. But when you include under 40, we'll reach 70 something. So for us, we are just looking at these cross-cutting issues, which are benefit for the whole continent, so that we can take them on board and make sure that we pressurize our government and our parliament so that they can all adhere to these agreements. For now, I think everyone exhausted, and I'll go through all the discussions. I hope it's recorded so that I can see what I missed, and we can all come together as one young continent. Asante sana. And Tumelam.
Thank you, Madam MP, for taking the efforts to jump into your car and make your way over here to the Wits Origin Center to join us in person. Thank you very much for your remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now coming to a close in our program. And this afternoon, the commemoration of Africa Day has been very, very insightful and fruitful in that we actually managed to break down the theme very, very, very well. And I'll just pick up two key takeaways for myself. Of course, at the start, we heard from the partners who gave us their opening remarks. Dr. Tenga made the case for youth and philanthropy in actually bringing about change on the African continent. Professor Niels Sokol, as well as Kamala Dixon, also spoke on the importance of knowledge, accumulating and generating knowledge that will actually bring about the development that we want to see. And then Professor Mati actually pointed out to the fact that there's still a lot of barriers that are pretty much unnecessary that we're still battling with till this day, 60 years on after the founding of the OAU. And we've also heard from the partner organizer, from our guest, Mr. Silva Ojako, Chief of Staff from AFCFTA, who broke it down to us very, very well. He told us of the progress that's actually being made across the continent. The AFCFTA has got the potential to generate $7 trillion by 2035. And Memory Dubet from AFDB spoke on creating opportunities for the demographic dividend that we have and the programs that the bank has actually put in place for the youth, as well as closing the gap, reducing skills gaps, and provision for empowering women. We also heard from Professor Nkosana Moyo, Minds founder and CEO, on the importance of actually us as the youth, taking advantage of opportunities that the actual AFCFTA has for us. Let's interrogate it, look at it. Businesses themselves have actually the task to unpack it for themselves, look at the gaps, and try to close them through the tangible solutions on the ground. Thereafter, we actually had Ignite talks, bringing what it means to actually accelerate the AFCFTA. We heard from Nandi and Eden. They gave us what I now call Business 101 for the AFCFTA. Very, very insightful. And to end the day, we had the youth debate, very candid discussions on what is working and what is not, and how we can actually do things better. Thank you very much for the music that we had, the performance that Kawe gave us, as well as given Mama's Boy. His music is available through various streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify. You can look him up. And before I close, can I call on Dr. Kelechi to please come and give us her complete vote of thanks?
One last thing. You all look beautiful. Can I start there? All the colorful outfits, you all look amazing. So please give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. The first vote of thanks is to all of you for looking beautiful. Everybody that's joined us on YouTube and on Zoom and here physically in the room, we appreciate you. Thank you. And it takes a village and many people working together to make something like this possible. So there are many superhumans that have worked tirelessly for a number of weeks to make this event happen for you today. And please don't be shy. If I call your name, just stand up and a quick wave as we go through this. So first and foremost, our partners and our sponsors who have labored behind the scenes for over a month now as we prepared for this. From SADC SIOF, represented here by Kamala. Quickly, Kamala, the one who made you laugh and had you in stitches. And then we have people that have become friends, really, Mishek, Bondo, Washington, Rion as well, who were joining us online. From APN, the African Philanthropy Network, you saw Stigmata, who gave a talk in the beginning, Tarisai, who was moderating for us, and Kelvin, who's here with us as well from APN. APN has a strong and solid history with us at the center. We come from way back, and both Stigmata and Tarisai have been very instrumental for this day. For Minds, the Mandela Institute for Development Studies, our partner, Ride or Die, is what I wrote here. We are inseparable. We come for years. Karine, Sarah, Miriam, Mary, thank you. I consider you all as sisters. Dr. Nkosana Moyo and Mama Grasa Michelle, who's in absentia, have been very generous with their wisdom and support. From the Wits Business School and CAPSI, my home ground and partners in crime, everything. Thank you for sticking with the Pan-African vision. You've never tired to put all your hands on deck and push year after year. I know that sometimes it gets annoying, but we do it and we make the dream work. Alison from communications, over there. Medupi and Tembega from marketing. Tembega is probably outside. We have Bonnie, who's here from Wits Origins. She's outside working. Our entertainment, Kawe, I call her QKZ. And given also from the Wits Business School, all our students, our DJ and tech support, Jayton at the back. We really appreciate you. To my colleagues at CAPSI who are here with us today, we have Prof. Mati, who you're beginning right here in front. We have Rose Wycliffe over there at the back, Wycliffe. Tanvi and Kolani also there at the back. Melody, Zele who's here at the back. I think Melody was online. Thank you so much for joining the session. We have good friends here, Mwanja, who's our facilitator, who skillfully held the program for us today. Thank you so much, Mwanja, for putting through. Mwanja is over there. We have our caterers. You're going to taste the food. I don't know if we should thank them now or taste it and see how that goes. But they have set up some food for you outside as well. We have our photographers, Lion Media, who will share all the visuals from today. And to the young people, the Wits SRC team and all your members that have joined us today, the acting president, Gabelo, and deputy president, Gamahelo. Thank you so much for pulling through and coming to represent. All our speakers from the AFDB, from the African Union Secretariat, and the young entrepreneurs who are actually making the dream work. Edith, Nandi, and you'll meet some more outside from Skills Village. They've made some merchandise that they're trading as well. So please support the young people, and we wish you all the best. And we want to read about you in not newspapers, but online as well in the next year or so. So thank you so much to everyone and to all of you for being here. We do have some food prepared for you outside. Oh, is it this way? Okay, so after proceedings, we'll just walk out to network and to enjoy the food as well. Asante sana, ngiyabonga, ngiyalibonga.
Thank you, everyone. The event has now come to a close, and it closes on an African note of filling our stomachs.
Yeah.
And I'm playing music comes.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please can we have a photo up in front? Just here.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut the lights.
That's